Hello and welcome to another biking video on doing stuff and filming it. Now, something a little different today. It has been a little over a year since I got my first ever motorbike, the Lifan King. I've made quite a few videos about this motorbike, all the various things that I've done to it, modifications, repairs, etc, a bit of maintenance in there too. And I thought, since it's now been a year, it'd be good to sort of look back at those videos and look back on the bike as well, how well it's done, how I'm getting on with it, etc, etc. Now, I'm not going to call this a review video, mainly because I don't feel that I'm in any way qualified to review motorbikes, at least not yet anyway. I've been riding about as long as I've had this motorbike. I've done a CBT. I am working towards my full license at the time of filming, but it's taken a while because it's winter and getting a test booked is a nightmare at the moment. So yeah, I'm not going to call it a review. It's more of a retrospective look at a year's worth of ownership of this bike and just talking about some of the good points, the bad points, all that sort of thing. I'm also going to talk about my first year of riding. It seems like a good thing to do. We'll say there have been some good things and some bad things that have happened. There have been some good things and bad things that I've done, and there have been some lessons learnt along the way, so I'll talk about all of that as well. I feel it's good sometimes to sit and just outline your thoughts on something. Certainly if you're looking to improve in a particular area as well, it's always good to look back and be honest with yourself, so we'll do a bit of that as well. Now, it may be a bit long, a bit rambly, but most of my videos are. Actually, no, all of my videos are. And as always, it is completely unscripted. I'm just going to talk about the bike. So yeah, hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching. Oh, where's my cup of tea? Right, well, I just realised something as I was just setting it all up. This is going to be your first glimpse of my new workshop slash motorbike showroom that I've been building for a few months now in the background. I haven't really been doing much recording about it. But yeah, this will be subject of another video in good time, but yeah, I'm sitting here for now. Since it's windy and rainy outside, I thought I may as well do the video in here. So yeah, a whole year with this girl, the Lifan King. I mean, if you want a summary, it's been good. It's been great. In fact, I love this bike. For a cheap Chinese 125 that I paid 900 quid for, I think it was. Oh, my ring light's just died. Never mind. Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. I can't fault it at all. Well, I can, because I've made several videos of all the various faults that have been on it, but that's not the point. I've loved it. It's been fantastic. So, yeah, if that's what you're looking for, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. If you're looking for a bit more from me, then, yeah, keep watching. So, where to start? I suppose we can talk about both the bike, my riding, and, well, we can talk about the content as well. So, yeah, because it hasn't just been a biking journey this past year, it's been, well, something of a YouTube journey as well. I like to think that I'm getting better with my videos, I'm learning how to make them more interesting, more engaging. The editing should be getting better, although I still spend hours and hours on it. I was hoping to get faster as well as better, but never mind. And I'm hopefully getting a little less rambly than I was in my earlier videos, although this video is going to fly completely in the face of that. Never mind. So let's look back on the content. Let me just remind myself of everything that we've done. Right, so on the biking playlist I have done 24 videos. That does include a few HD remakes, so yeah, 6 of those are HD remakes, because partway through this past year I've upgraded my editing software to work in 4K. I have 4K cameras, so it made sense to use it. So I re-exported some of those videos, so yeah, with 6 taken off, so we've done 18 videos, which is a little over one a month. Not bad, really. I've been aiming for one biking video a month for it, so Yeah, so, I mean, we started off, when was this one released? Oh, look at that. Almost to the year, yeah, 11th of January 23. I got the bike in December. I know that because my insurance has just renewed about 2 days prior to filming this, which was great just before Christmas. I've also had to buy heating oil this month, which was great just before Christmas. But anyway, so yeah, we started. Our first video was the 11th of January, new motorbike introducing the Lifan King. I mean, I look back on that video now, and it's hard to believe how different the bike looks. Unfortunately, it's all in the wrong ways in some instances as well. It's so clean and shiny. I mean, at the moment, the bike is unfortunately filthy, like properly filthy. Yeah, I took it for its MOT, and it was windy and rainy and muddy. Because of where I live, the roads are just caked in mud at the moment. It's terrifying going out on the bike at the moment. And of course, it then dried onto everything hot, like the exhaust, and I just haven't had the time or the patience to give it a good clean. But also, things like the exhaust were nice and shiny. And they're just not now. They're rusty, and I need to do something with them. Still, though, I'm happy with how the bike looks now. So yeah, I don't really regret it. There's still some work needs to be done. There's a few bits like this plastic thing here is broken, which is quite unsightly, but finding a new plastic surround is proving difficult. And yeah, the other thing with the video, I think I go into extreme length. How long is this? Nearly 27 minutes, 26 minutes, 58 seconds, talking about the bike, and I go through like every knob and button. I think in future, if I'm going to introduce a bike or something like that, or maybe one day I'll do reviews of bikes, I won't go into every knob and button. I could have probably done that in half the time. So, but that was the start. It was the start of my biking career. So I don't regret it. I don't have any regrets this past year. Well, none that I can think of right now. That may change. Second one was why you should avoid budget action cameras for moto vlogging. Yeah, I had a little camera, it's like made in China, action cam. It was supposed to be 1080p at 30 frames per second. The computer said it was 1080p, but it was a poor 1080p. So if you'd taken, say, 480 and just blown it up to 1080p, it weren't right good. Yeah. Decent camera gear, not necessarily expensive camera gear. I'm recording this on a Casio V50X, and they're great. 4K, 60 frames per second, image stabilization. I think I've said it before in other videos. It's 9 out of 10 what an expensive GoPro is, but 1 out of 10 on the price. It's fantastic. But yeah, that is 3.5 minutes long. And if you're thinking of getting into moto vlogging and you've got these cheap cameras, don't use them. And that will show you why. They were pretty terrible. Building my own top box. Yes. Yes. So that's probably my most plugged video. This came out in February 23. It's probably been my most useful modification to the bike. At the moment, it's got tools and spare oil and fluids and such like in it. That's pretty much what it does permanently now. I just carry little things like that around, always handy to have, especially if you're on a long ride. But yeah, it just seemed to come up a lot when I was making all my other videos, so one of my longer videos. So it was a nice learning experience. I really enjoyed making it. It's one of my first projects. Yeah, highly recommend it. I was talking to a chap recently, he had a bit of trouble on his... Blimey. I think there's a hurricane forming outside. He was having a bit of trouble on his bike. It lost some of its oil, but we can't figure out where from. It just, but yeah, he's carrying a bottle of oil with him now, but he doesn't have anywhere to put it, so it has to go in his rucksack with his packed lunch. I'm like, need an ammo can top box. So he's thinking of making one now. So yeah, spread the word. Everyone should have one. It's fantastic. Alright, and we're just going to skip through a few here. So we had, headlamp switch repair. That was kind of the first real fault, and it happened, I think, like the day or like the day after I got it, or I started noticing it. Yeah, I couldn't put full beam on. I forgot the alarms on. I couldn't put full beam on with the headlight switch, or rather I could, but I think it would just turn the lights off entirely. I can't remember what was wrong with it, but it needed fixing. So yeah, that was the first thing that went wrong. We had to replace this arrangement here. Fixing the Lifan King indicators was next. Oh, fixing the indicators, sort of. That was a good one. So the indicators have been something of a running saga. Yeah, I ended up doing 2 videos on it. Fixing the Lifan King indicators, sort of. And then the Lifan King gets new indicators. Yeah, over time, it's now actually got 4. Oh, actually, no, it's got 5 on because one of the new ones broke as well. It's typical. But yeah, we started off, I wanted to change the bulbs in them, and the back ones were rusted out, the bulb holders, and there was no fixing them, so we changed the rear indicators, and then later on, I tried doing the same with the front indicators, and they were the same. So it's eventually got 4 new indicators on it, and interestingly, I've had to wire up the front ones differently to the back ones. The front ones are wired up with a single wire setup, and the back ones, because they're mounted to a plastic mudguard, fender, whatever you want to call it, they have to be set up with a 2-wire setup, because reasons. Oh, and we also had the issue with the indicator relay. Looking back now, that's a perfect illustration of the quality issues that you get with Chinese motorcycles. Now, I'm not going to say that they're deliberately making cheap crap. I mean, some Chinese companies probably are, but I think the ones that are exporting to Europe and North America, but to the West, they're not trying to make cheap crap, because why would you do that? We expect a certain level of product here in the West, so but they are somewhat inexperienced at it. What had happened to the indicator relay was where it mounted on a little rubber hook, it had moved and was vibrating against a bolt at the back under the seat. Unfortunately, that vibration over time ruined the relay to the point where it seized up inside, and then when you're trying to use it, your indicators would either be off, just wouldn't work, or would just come on as a solid orange light. But if you revved the engine up a bit, then you could get them to work, but depending on how fast you rev the engine would determine how fast they would flash. It was very, very strange. And of course the relay was getting very hot and it actually melted slightly, so something of a lucky escape there. But I can't help but think if I had, say, a Suzuki or a Yamaha, for example, that wouldn't be an issue. They've learned through trial and error in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when they were the new face bringing cheap crap into the West, or cheap crap, that things like that just can't fly. They would have put the bolt somewhere else, or the relay somewhere else, or some sort of little rubber grommet to stop the two touching each other. So yeah, I think that is the first sign of the sort of issues you're going to face with Chinese motorbikes, at least at the current crop, this sort of age. They're getting better day by day. So yeah, little quality issues like that, and I don't think there's anything deliberate about them. I put it down to inexperience. I like to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. Alright, what did we have after that? Yeah, next was the HD remix. We'll skip past all those. So, the brake light saga. Fuck me. Yeah, that was quite a frustrating ending. Was that we had a right do getting the brake light to work on the rear brake pedal down here. I spent fucking ages. I think I ordered one genuine switch because I was convinced it was the switch, because the light would work, but you had to jiggle the switch in a certain way. So the only thing it could be was the switch, which is just on the back of the pedal down here. So I ordered a new genuine one. No difference, didn't work. That one, the new one, didn't work at all. Yeah, it was even worse than the old one, which at least worked intermittently. Anyway, so sent it back to the guy, that I ordered it from said, sorry mate, it just doesn't work, and I checked the continuity through it with a tester, and yeah, it was just dead. So yeah, sent it back. Sent it back at my own cost as well. I mean, it wasn't very expensive, but still, as well as spending an hour waiting for fucking Mildenhall post office to open. By the way, the post office is shit. It really is. You know, their opening hours, I swear, are like 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. right, with 2 hours for lunch, and they wonder why their business is shrinking all the time. It's because they're just never fucking open. And this place, you know, they advertise their opening hours on both the post office website and on their own website for the shop that it's in. I go there, and the guy at the counter's just like, yeah, we're opening late today. What? It says you open at X time. Yeah, well, you know, yeah. So it's normally quiet on these days, so I decided I'd open a bit later. But yeah, come back in an hour. I'm like, okay, yeah. And the few times that I have used the post office as well, it's very hit and miss. You either get someone who's great to deal with and really helpful, or someone who's just got their own little empire in this post office and they don't like people being in it at all. I found the ones that are inside the larger stores, like say Co-op and upwards, and Asda, where I used to work, used to have a post office inside it as well, which is quite unusual. Yeah, they were always great. But then my local village post office, I remember when I was trying to tax my very first car back when I was 17, and I went down to the post office to do it because doing it online wasn't a big thing at the time. It was possible, it had been for a while, but my parents and grandparents had always taxed their cars at the post office, so I went to do that. And the guy behind the counter was so unhelpful. You know, it's like you have to take certain documents with you, but being 17, didn't know that. So I went there and he just says, you haven't got the documents, and that was it. And then he literally just went, next. I'm like, great. So I'll go all the way home and I think, right, well, these are all the documents I have for this car, and I'll take them all with me. No, these are all the wrong ones, next. And in the end I ended up going to this post office 3 times, still didn't get the car taxed because he just wouldn't do it. You know, he just fucking wouldn't have it. And in the end I did it online. I've done it online ever since. So there you go. But yeah, that is unfortunately the sort of attitude you get with the post office. But yeah, anyway, so posted it back to him, and it gets back to him, and then the guy goes on holiday, keeps my sodding brake light switch, right? So I'm sat waiting with no brake light on the rear brake, and then he sends me the same switch back again, the one that I just returned to him. Oh, for God's sake. So I looked up and got some non-genuine ones, just like generic brake light switches. I think they were made for like kids' dirt bikes or something like that with these things. Thought, screw it, that'll do, it's just a switch. And then after all that faffing around and getting it to work and cutting up the wiring harness to accept the plugs, to accept the little connectors on the new brake light switches, turned out it was nothing to do with that at all. I can't even remember what it was now. So, oh yes I can, it was a connector under the seat that wasn't sitting properly, and that was it. I just plugged it in properly and the brake light worked perfectly ever since, so I never needed a bloody switch ever in the end. And the faulty one that he'd sent me and then I'd sent back and then he sent back to me, turned out wasn't faulty anyway, so it's got the new genuine switch on there now. Whatever, that was yes, that's why it's called the brake light saga, with a frustrating ending. Anyway, that was a bit of a rant. And then we started having a bit of fun. Well, we had the Lifan King chain tension adjustments. That was something new. Yeah, they noticed the chain was getting a bit slack, so we went through the process of adjusting it. Yeah, It lasted a while. We would find out later, however, that the chain was on its way out, so it didn't stay at the correct tension. By the way, if you're getting a lot of noise in the background, it has all of a sudden started blowing a gale outside. The door is shut, but yeah, there's a reason I built myself this little showroom. I don't want to be outside filming in this. Fucking hell. Alright, yeah, then we started having a bit of fun. We had Lifan King gets the eBay treatment. Well, I think only half the stuff was actually off eBay. Some of it was off Amazon, all sorts of places. But yeah, I'm trying to think, what did we stick on it? What's come off eBay? Well, most of the stuff has come off eBay. The top box, they came off eBay. These saddlebags were eBay. The little tool roll on the front forks, that's eBay. The screen wasn't eBay. That came from the parts supplier, but I ordered it online, so I think I included it in that as well. Oh yeah, there's USB power under here. I think that was eBay, although that did get its own video in the end. Yeah, half the stuff that I've bolted to this bike has been eBay or Amazon or something like that. I quite enjoyed that one. Yeah, big haul of stuff. Well, it wasn't that big, but yeah, loads of stuff, and just spent ages tinkering and putting it together. That was a good do, wasn't it? Ah, yeah, and then we had the big one. I had to do this as a two-parter. The chain and sprocket replacement, which turned into a lot more than that. We ended up like servicing the brakes and all sorts on it. Yeah, that's probably the biggest job I've done so far on this bike. And at one point, the bike looked to be basically cut in half. It barely looked like a motorbike anymore, you know. All the back wheel was off, the chains, the sprockets, all of it gone, parts everywhere. Yeah, we ended up servicing the rear brakes, and then of course putting it all back together, readjusting the rear brakes which had broken. Yeah, that was it. When I keep saying we, it's a one-man band, this. When I did the chain tension adjustment in the previous video, we had the issue with the broken brakes. The back brakes stopped working, and we finally got it going. But of course, had to do the whole job all over again. But yeah, it was a two-parter, 37 minutes and 30 minutes 13 seconds. The two of them, so over an hour's worth, and that was cutting down a lot, as I remember. I took a lot of footage out of that. But yeah, that's probably the biggest job I've had to do so far on this, besides maybe the 3,000 mile service, because that's the big service on this bike. But at any point I could have just left the service items and the bike would have still worked. I mean, you know, obviously can't do that when I've already drained the oil out of it, for example, but I could have done those items separately or over a longer period of time. The chain and sprocket, once you've started, you ain't got a bike until you finish. So, but yeah, it was a big job, and I've got quite a few. I'm lucky enough to have made quite a few biking friends over this past year, and to my knowledge, none of those have done that job on their own. They've just had it done. They've just paid for it to be done at a garage. So, and whilst I'm quite mechanically minded, I'm really good with my hands. It was still a completely new area. Biking is completely new to me, so yeah, I'm quite proud of myself for doing that. Oh yeah, we had a couple of outtakes. Slightly drunk while doing the editing. So I was actually a little drunk whilst I was doing the editing. So, but I mean, I try not to get drunk on camera too much. So, although I've been filming some episodes of Strange Things from Across the Pond, and yeah, there's a bit of drunkenness in those. But yeah, slightly drunk while doing the editing.
I'll to brake, and then yeah, well, it's starting to do it. Look, all right, we'll let that penetrate and do its job.
Penetrate.
Let's just get a bit more on first.
Alright, let's moving on. So, what did we have then? USB power supply and saddlebags fitting. Yes. Now, the USB power supply it's still in there. It's under the seat behind this plastic cover. It still works, but I haven't used it once since fitting it. Not for any particular reason, just the opportunity hasn't come up. I don't really have a reliable way of mounting a sat-nav on my phone to this bike, not yet anyway, partly because decent phone mounts for motorbikes are so much money. Everyone goes mad about those bloody quad locks, and I look at the price, I'm like, what the fuck? There was a fairly decent Fortnite video recently that looked at different ones, and even they pointed out that the quad lock was far too much fucking money. So, and there were other cheaper alternatives, although none of them were that cheap. But you know, I'll get something like that eventually. So the saddlebags, though, still here, still in use pretty much every time I go out. I think one of them, or maybe it doesn't at the moment. Oh no, it's up there on the shelf at the moment. Normally, if I'm going out for any sort of good distance, you know, like a long ride out to the coast, I'll take my little 1 litre jerry can with me, make sure it's full, and I'll go in one of the saddlebags, and we'll have like lunch sandwiches in the other. So yeah, they're still there, they're still doing really well. They need a wash, but they're still nice and waterproof as well. Not bad for East German. Ah yeah, and then we had the oil change and 3,000 mile service. That is my longest video, hour and 16 minutes. But again, glad I did it. The oil change, as I stated in the video, it needed to be done. I didn't really have any service history for this bike. Well, I do, but I can't be bothered to go and dig it out of the filing cabinet. But it never details everything that's been done. They normally just sign it off and say, oh, you had an oil change at this point. So I wanted to do all of it, though. I've been enjoying learning about this bike. And then the most recent ones we did Bentley versus Lifan, because I just love a good bandwagon, really. That was actually the first bit of filming I did in here. I'm still working on getting the lighting correct. It's probably starting to show on this video because it's getting dark outside now. But yeah, I'm still working on getting the lighting right in here. I think I need some floodlights on the roof to do proper filming in here, especially in the winter. And last one is the Lifan King overheating issue that we had. Yeah, it hasn't overheated since I made that video, so I guess it's fixed. But I mean, it's winter at the moment, so it's a lot harder to make the thing overheat when it's fucking freezing. I'm not really riding that much at the moment because mud on the roads, it's cold, it's wet, it's miserable, and nobody I know is really riding that much unless they have to. Nobody's riding for fun at the moment, so yeah, at the moment it's put away. That, and I'm really fucking busy. Oh, and of course, yeah, I did a supercut because I always do a supercut of things. This video will end up in a supercut in a year's time, so yeah. Right, so that's been the content. Like I said, 18 videos, or 24 if you include the HD remakes, and I don't regret any of them. I've really enjoyed making them. So yeah, it's good to have a good recap of them, I think, sometimes. Yeah, hopefully many more to come. I've got a few ideas on the go. I'm always in a bit of a knife edge situation with my content creation on the bikes, in that I'll have an idea and I'll act on it and make the video of it, but I only seem to have one idea at a time, so my scheduling is never that far in advance. So other series like Strange Things from Across the Pond, I'm nearly a year ahead on that. I've done so much filming this past month, and I've been slowly working through and editing all the episodes together. I'm well ahead on that because I have all the items I want to try, and it's a monthly series. But with this, they take a lot longer. There's a lot more planning has to go into them. Have to order things, spend a lot more money. So yeah, I'm trying desperately to keep to the monthly release schedule for the bike, but it is getting harder at the moment, unfortunately. But I'll figure something out. Alright, so I suppose second part of this may as well be, let's talk about the bike. And this is probably going to overlap with my riding as well, I suppose. Thoughts on this bike, the Lifan King, or the LF125-14F is the actual model code, but we'll call it the Lifan King. And it's Lifan as far as I'm concerned. I know some people will call it Lifan or Lifan. It's Lifan. Yeah, whatever. Thoughts on it? I love it. I absolutely love this bike. It's just great. I love how it looks. I love how it feels to ride it. I've always liked cruiser bikes over anything else. I mean, granted, I'm only recently getting really into them, but I've always liked the look of cruiser bikes, which is why I bought this, really. Yeah, I was looking, after doing my CBT, I was looking at 125 bikes, and there was so much shit out there. You know, so many people are putting just death traps on there. You know, like, oh, a great bike, runs great, a few minor issues, brakes don't work. It's like, what? So it's a death trap then? You're selling a death trap? Or my personal favourite is something like, was running when parked, don't know what's wrong with it, but being told it's an easy fix. Like £10 on parts and 5 minutes work. It's like, but you don't know what's wrong with it, so how can you know that? And then they'll put it up at like £2,000. It's like, mate, it's a piece of shit. So it was just endless things like that, just endless crap, and people wanting stupid money. It's like, mate, either fix it or at least tell us what's wrong with it, and then price it accordingly. If you're saying, oh, don't know what's wrong with it, but easy fix, I think you do know what's wrong with it, and you know it's something catastrophic. And you're just hoping to offload it onto someone and get a shit ton of money out of them. There's some right scumbags out there. But yeah, anyway, I saw this, fucking loved the styling of it immediately. I thought, that is the bike I want. And it had a year's MOT, or like 11 months or something like that. It's close enough. And it ran, and it had low mileage, and it wasn't stupidly priced. Like I said, it was 900 quid, and the guy gave me 2 motorbike jackets to go with it as well. So yeah, it was great to finally find someone. So I actually took out the insurance the day before I went to see it. I hadn't even seen it, but I knew I was riding this bike home that day. So as long as it started and ran and the brakes, and as long as everything worked on it when I got there, it was as described, I was riding it away. I gave the guy the money and brought it home. So yeah, I absolutely love this bike. It's fantastic. I mean, you do have a few niggles, like I wish 125s weren't so weak. I mean, I know I've only done a CBT, and these sorts of bikes are aimed at teenagers, and bikes are dangerous, teenagers are stupid, I know, but I mean, if it could have, say, like a 250 engine in it, that'd be nice, but I wouldn't change it. I did look, they do make a 250 version of this, but you only get like 2 more horsepower, and I'm like, it's not worth it. I thought it'd be double the horsepower, but it's something to do with the 250 engine being air-cooled, whereas this is water-cooled, so yeah, I don't think it was even 2 horsepower, I think it was like 1. It was literally 1 horsepower. It just wasn't worth changing the engine, because I'd need so many other parts that just were not available, so. But yeah, I wouldn't change it from being a 125. I'm definitely keeping it. As I mentioned earlier, I am working towards my full bike licence, the unrestricted Category A licence it'll be at my age. But I'm still keeping my 125. I love this bike. It's superbly comfortable, even on the longest of journeys. When I did that Norfolk coast run in the summer, we were riding for, it must have been 12 hours we were out. I mean, we weren't riding for 12 hours, but for a sizable chunk of that, we were on the bike. I was comfortable the whole way. I was loving it. It's such a comfy bike to ride. I love how far it goes as well. It's got a massive tank on it. I look at other people's bigger bikes when I go out. I was admiring someone's Virago the other day. Tiny tank on it. They can do 100 miles and then they have to fill up. This thing does like 250 miles on a tank. And even then, I bet I could squeeze it to 300 if I was gentle. Yeah, massive tank on it. And of course, because it's small engine, yeah, you hardly use any fuel. So it's great for cruising about on, because you can cruise for miles and miles and miles. It's wonderful. And if you do what I've done and take the pillion passenger seat off, well, I've put it back on now for reasons, but yeah, you've got all this space for luggage. So if you are looking for a small bike but you want to go on adventures with it, this is brilliant. I mean, it's not an adventure bike, so you maybe want to avoid off-roading, but if you just want to go places, and all you say, if you're young and all you can have is a 125 or you've only got a CBT, I would definitely have one of these. If you can get one, they're quite rare in this country, which is part of the reason I wanted it. But yeah, I would definitely have one of these. And there may be, a lot of people will say, well, you can get a used Honda and it'll be far more reliable. It's like, yeah, but it'll also look like shit, because when bikes are common, people treat them like shit. And people will then turn around and say, oh yeah, it's a Honda, so it's worth more because it's reliable. The used vehicle market, used car and bike market at the moment is just insane. People want so much money for just crap. Utter crap. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I'd definitely say I have one of these. I love this bike. The only thing that I would say when it comes to recommending it, mind, is it's maybe not the best for brand new riders. I remember, and I still think this as well, when I did my CBT, I was on a Honda CBR, or I think it was CBF or something like that. Honda CB 125, naturally. And that's a great bike. It's not too loud, the engine sounds like a little sewing machine, really easy to get on with and use, and fantastic bike to be teaching people on. And then I went and got this, and it felt so heavy and unwieldy, and I have gone from a nice lightweight, sporty-ish bike to a big old heavy bastard, which perhaps wasn't the best move for my first few ride-outs. I perhaps should have spent 6 months on something different and then got this, but someone else would have bought this if I hadn't have done, so that's just something to be aware of. You are going to have to learn to, to trust the bike that, you can lean this big heavy thing around. Because when I first went out riding on it, I was riding perfectly perpendicular to the ground and slowing down so much for the corners, and I'm still working on my corners. I still don't trust myself that well with them. I much prefer to just gently cruise around rather than go flying along like some people do. But yeah, that is something to be aware of. It's maybe not the most ideal bike for a complete novice, but it's not that bad. Just if you want one, get one, you'll manage. Yeah, good points. I'm going to say reliability as well, because whilst I've made all these videos of various things that I've done to it and fixed on it, it hasn't been that bad. It's never let me down, like, at all. It just hasn't. I mean, yeah, we had the chain stretch out, but all bikes do that. We did have a bit of an issue with the overheating. Looking back on that now, I don't think that was at least entirely the bike's fault. I think that might be because I changed the sprocket and it spends a lot more time at higher revs. But we did find some issues with it, so I'm glad we looked into it, but it perhaps wasn't the bike's fault that it overheated. Anyway, yeah, a few quality issues, like I mentioned with the indicator relay failing because it was vibrating against that bolt. I'm not too happy with these plastics and the way it's rusted to fuck, especially on the exhaust. But the main bit, the engine, the gearbox, absolutely perfect. Like I said, I did a 12-hour ride out on it, and it spent most of that pinned, as you do a 125, and it was fine. Absolutely perfect it was. It just didn't skip a beat the whole time I was out on it. So, I'm going to say a good point, reliability. It's great. And the other good point is, I'm sorry, but you look fucking cool on a bike like this. If you're on a 125 sports bike, yeah, you look alright. But once people realise your top speed is 55, so it's not that cool. This looks cool regardless. And it turns a lot of heads. I'll go to places like Walker's Cafe, biker cafe that's not too far away, and people look and they're like, is this a 125? I'm like, yeah, and go, They've never seen a 125 like this. You wouldn't know it was one until you get up close to it. Yeah, it's a cool bike, and I love it. Downsides of it, it is cheap. It's been made to a budget, so I've already mentioned things like the exhaust, this chrome it's basically just rusting and flaking off in chunks now. I need to do something with it. I'm thinking of just taking the chrome off, just blasting it off and painting them black or something like that, or replacing them entirely. So yeah, quality isn't the best on things like that. We've got this broken bit of plastic up here. The radiator grill has two of its mountings are broken. I noticed when I was making my Bentley versus Lifan video the other day. Yeah, that's just randomly broken away. The little chrome surround on the Speedo, it's metal, but it's somehow peeling itself. I don't get that. I wonder if maybe it's been prized open or something. Well, I hope it hasn't. Well, no, the MOT history matches the mileage. Must I hope it does. Yeah, it does. I know it does. Whatever. Yeah, anyway, that's peeling away. We had the issue with the coolant bottles, that were a bit pants. I've had to do a fair bit to this bike. Like the exhaust bolts, stud bolts, came undone once when I was on a short ride out. The exhaust didn't come off, but I'd lost 3 of the 4 little nuts that held it on, so the bike sounded like a fucking tractor as I was riding it along. Coolant hoses, it's all little things which, if I had a modern Western bike or a Japanese bike, I probably wouldn't be having issues with. And this is where it gets, and this is where I'm a bit weird. I'm kind of glad of those sorts of little issues, because then I get to tinker and fiddle with it. I think it'd be quite boring if I had a perfectly reliable bike. I mean, for one, I won't have any content to make. So yeah, I'm quite glad those things happened. I mean, there's other things as well, but they're too small to really go into. Like, I've never liked the position of the brake pedal for the back brake. It's far too high up, and you have to sort of lift your leg and crane your foot. But there's not a lot I can do about that. I could try ordering a new brake pedal, but it's too much like hard work. Yeah, that's all I can say about it, really. I mean, I could summarise it as, I love it, it looks great, it's perfectly reliable, it has not let me down. I have not broken down on it, not even close to breaking down. It's never skipped a beat, all the stuff I've done to it this past year. But you do have to accept some quality compromises. I think that's the summary of it. It's good, but that's what I'd say. So I suppose final thing to talk about is how I think my riding has progressed. To fill you in case you didn't know, I passed my car driving test when I was 17. So we're talking back in 2007 now, to show me age. And at the time, I'd looked at motorbikes, so it was scooters and mopeds back then when I was 16. But I was kind of more into my computers. I did have a part-time job, but by the time I was kind of in a position to start looking at getting a moped or a scooter, yeah, it was time to start driving lessons. I was 17, and that's what I did. And I've had a car ever since. I haven't been without a car since I passed my test, and now I have 4 of them. So when I came to do my CBT last year, which was very kindly paid for by my employer at the time as a perk of the job. There weren't many perks, and it was a pretty awful job to have, but yeah, I took them up on that one. Yeah, the offer to do my CBT came round. I'd wanted to get into bikes pretty much the whole time. That feeling never went away, but it just always got put on the back burner. I got a car, and then it was time to go to university. And then you leave, and it's time to look for a job, time to look at renting a house, getting married. That was a mistake. Spending 10 years in an abusive relationship, finally getting out of it, and then finally in a position where I can start looking at getting into my bikes when I'm already over 30. Fucking great. But yeah, so I was finally in a position to do it. And I've gone off, done my CBT, aced it. Yeah, really enjoyed the day. I did it at AAA with a woman called Amanda. Highly recommend. Yeah, I'm actually doing my motorbike training with her. I've got my Mod 1 test coming up in a few days at the time of filming. But yeah, I did my CBT there. Really enjoyed it, and at the time I was thinking, well, I just want to do it, and you know, and if I like it, I might get a bike. I might not bother, but I did it and I loved it, and I had to have a bike. So that's how I got into it. And for a time, I was happy to just have a CBT and then do it again in 2 years' time, and just keep riding a 125. But now that I've been riding a while, I would like a full license. I'm not overly interested in having a bigger bike. Like I say, I'm keeping my 125. I may get a bigger bike, I may not, but I'm going to be a 125 rider for life. I just want to take my L plates off because they look a bit stupid. That's the only reason I'm doing it. In terms of my riding, I think back then, and at the time when after doing the CBT, and this is testament to Amanda's teaching, I was feeling pretty confident in myself. Then I came to going out riding on my own, and yeah, I wasn't that confident. So, well, that's partly because when I got the bike and I was trying to ride it, it was so cold and icy at the time. And I remember my first few rides, especially the one riding it back as well, I was so slow on it, and I was concentrating so hard. Didn't want to lean the bike at all. It was almost like I was still riding on the pad, doing the manoeuvres like you do on a CBT, but I'm out on the road holding everyone up. And yeah, I used to slow down so much for corners. I'd be out with other people, and I'd be the one going down like 3 gears to go around a simple bend. But I think I have improved in that area. I'm much more confident on it now. It just came with experience. I'm still not keen on thrashing it round corners and leaning it well over. It's not that sort of bike. But I am at a point now where I don't hold people up when we go out riding either. In fact, once or twice I've overtaken the group leader, which is a bit of a faux pas, but he was being slow. He's got a 3 and 600 for Christ's sake. Go faster. So, there have been a few bad points. Quite early on, we were riding over to Walker's, and we came to a roundabout, and I'm at the back of the group, which wasn't the best place for a new 125 rider to be when you're out with bigger bikes. We now put the 125 riders at the front every time, regardless of their experience now. Yeah, at the front behind the group leader, and then all the bigger bikes behind them. But yeah, we came up to a roundabout. Everyone in front of me went round it quite quickly, and I was like, oh, come on, Stuart, you know, their bikes will go around, yours will too. So you've just got to have the confidence to do it. You know, you can keep up with them. So yeah, I went round the roundabout, and the back end went. I didn't come off, but it was a big slide, and that was a bit of a wake-up call to say I need to be riding within my limits in a group. I did catch up to them, got off the roundabout without dying, and caned it back to, you know, catching up to them. But yeah, I haven't done that since. I haven't ridden beyond my limits in order to keep up with a group now. If they want to fuck off and leave, then fine. I'll bumble along and get there when I get there. But it's not really an issue now because we put the 125 riders at the front, so everyone can wait for me. But yeah, you know, it was one of those things that I promised myself I wouldn't do, and then I almost immediately did it. So that was a nice learning experience that day. I'm trying to think other things. I have developed a few bad habits as I'm learning doing lessons with Amanda again. Like, because I'm not a big fan of throwing the bike round corners, I just don't have that sort of confidence yet. I've picked up the habit of just straight lining things, like roundabouts, straight line, corners, straight line. And I'll be having the intercom in like, Stuart, stop fucking doing that. It's like, sorry. Of course you can't hear me, I can't speak back, it's a one-way communication. So it's just, stop fucking doing it. Yeah. And I have completely forgotten my shoulder checks. My God, what a lesson. The amount of times I'll hear, shoulder checks, oh fuck. Although, in my defence, because I have an open face helmet, my shoulder checks are like that. Whereas in a normal the regular helmet, you have to make them more obvious. You go like that to see. So I'm just like, yeah, there's no one there. So, you're not doing any shoulder checks. Fine, I'm doing my shoulder checks. Yeah, that's better. It's not though, but whatever. But yeah, that's about the only bad points I can think of. I'm still building my confidence. It's slowly getting better, but I learned early on that I'm not too keen on pushing myself really hard either. Yeah, I'm not in a mad rush to become some speed demon, which I think is maybe slowing my progress in certain areas, but whatever, that's life. I'm happy with it being like that. So yeah, I think that about closes it off. Yeah, we've gone through all the content. We've talked about the bike, upsides and downsides. Some reasons I love it. I highly recommend you get one. Just be aware. Riding, a couple of mistakes, but not too major. Yeah, that's about all I can say. Plans going forward. Well, I've got another video on the go at the moment. I've had another idea which I'm researching into, and that can be a video if it pans out. But beyond that, I don't know. We'll have to see what comes up. Let's say if and when I get my full license, it's not going to affect this bike other than I can take the L plates off it. I'm still going to have it, I'm still going to look after it, and I'm still going to ride it. Yeah, we'll just have to see what the future holds. Right, I need to get on with editing this, because I've been talking for quite some time, and this is probably going to be very long and rambly and boring. But I did warn you that when the video started, so if you're still here, it's your own fault, really. Right, drink my lukewarm cup of tea, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching this video on doing stuff and filming it. Please don't forget to press the big button here in the middle to subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you liked what you just saw, please click the like button below and leave a comment letting me know what you liked about it. And as always, thank you for watching.